So hello and welcome all back to our second Women in Product Toastmasters Club meeting. We're so excited to have you all join us again. My name is Svetlana and I'm your Sergeant at Arms. And I'll take you through a few quick Zoom tips for anyone joining via Zoom for the first time. So you can use your headset, earbuds, or computer audio, but please make sure your mic is muted when you're not speaking. You'll notice that you're automatically muted on entering the meeting, but you can unmute yourself when you do speak by toggling the mic icon in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. You can also toggle your video on and off, but we of course prefer if you leave it on so we can all see each other. You can adjust the view from your end in the upper right-hand corner, either for the gallery view if you want to see everyone, or to the active speaker to just see the speaker. We will have it so that it automatically sort of pins the speaker. Feel free to use a chat feature right in the middle to ask questions or share notes for speakers, which you can do to everyone in the meeting, or you can select specific individuals by selecting from the dropdown. Please do this between speeches. Finally, this meeting is being recorded, as it is our policy that by participating in our meeting, you agree that a recording will be available publicly on our YouTube channel and on our website. And at this time, I'd like to introduce you to our president, Erica Tambura. Over to you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our second meeting as the Women in Product Toastmasters Club. The mission of our meeting, or the mission of Women in Product Toastmasters Club, is to provide an opportunity for women to develop product management skills, build and practice communication techniques, and to gain leadership experience in a safe, supportive, and collegial forum. We are glad that everybody's here. And we do have a guest today, Priyansh. Am I saying that? I hope I'm saying that correctly. I'm very bad at names.
Yes.
Apologies. It's nice to have you today. What we do ask of guests, if you are willing, is to let us know your name, what your product role, maybe company is, and where you're located, and maybe what your superpower is, if you're comfortable doing that.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. Hold on, yeah. Yeah, I'm Priyansh. I am based out of Bay Area, California, specifically Mountain View. I'm currently a product manager at VMware. My superpower, I think it's cooking at this point. I'm just cooking a lot because of quarantine. So yeah, that's my superpower.
Thank you so much for coming. We invite you to participate in the meeting as much as you would like. We might get called on if that's okay. If you prefer not to, that's quite all right as well. And welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm also a guest.
Oh, I'm sorry. Renee. Welcome, Renee. Would you like to tell us your name, your product company, and your superpower?
Sure. So my name is Renee, and I was invited by Salazar from Women Lead Toastmasters Club. I'm happy to be here today, and I work at NVIDIA. I was a product manager for our DGX system, which is AI compliance. I'm based in the Bay Area, Santa Clara. My superpower is competitive ballroom dancing. Great to meet you all.
Thank you, Renee. My apologies for missing you on the list.
That's all good.
Renee is one of our evaluators today, and we're looking forward to hearing more from her later. Okay, and moving on, I would like to introduce Isha Singh, who is our VP of Education, to talk about, to lead today's meeting as Toastmaster, which theme is Product Roadmap. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Erica, and welcome everybody and the guests to this meeting. As Erica mentioned, I'm the VP of Education, and also I'm one of the 3 founding members of this club. So I'm excited to be here. I was not able to make the last meeting, so this is also my first meeting, so bear with me. Today's theme is product roadmap, and what I believe in is those who fail to plan, they plan to fail. So roadmap is so important in all aspects of our life, especially in our work life and in products. Most of us are in our roles, probably are working on our next year's roadmap. We are in Q4 right now, so the timing seemed really right for me to talk about product roadmap. So you'll see a lot of flavor in our meeting today. So today we have, I'll go through the speeches. We have 3 speakers, Svetlana, Liz Barum, and Olena Kortenko they are our 3 speakers, and you'll hear their introductions and their icebreaker speeches right after this. Our table topics moderator is Srimai, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce your last name. Don't worry. And then our evaluators, our first evaluator is Rita Barber, and our general evaluator is also Rita, and you have seen her in her last meeting, I guess. The second evaluator is Solazar, who is carrying over from last meeting. And our third evaluator is Renee, who you just heard from. So thank you to the evaluators for joining. Our grammarian is going to be Erica, our president. Our counter will be Nav, and timer will be Lori Edwards. All right. So just a reminder, and for those who are new, a general evaluator is responsible for the whole evaluation team, which includes evaluators, grammarian, our counter, and the timer. During the meeting, they take notes, and at the end of their meeting, they do present what they found around how the meeting went, how the evaluations went, what was the enthusiasm, how many people were prepared, and things like that. A speech evaluator is going to evaluate the speech and also according to the criteria and the theme of the meeting. Grammarian is going to listen to speeches and make notes of use of grammar, and then report on it at the end of the meeting. Our counter, Lori, this, I guess all of us can use this report at the end of the meeting, is to know how many filler words a speaker has used, how many times is said, how many times other and things like those will be counted by our counter. Timer, we are switching these roles today. Our counter will be Nav and timer will be Lori, but timer will time your speeches. The 3 speakers, they will be given up to from 4 to 6 minutes to talk about their speeches or give their speeches, and then the table topics are also they will also be timed. And that goes to Erica as our grammarian.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster and guests. As grammarian, it's my responsibility to pay close attention to all speakers, listening carefully to their language usage. I'll take note of any improper language as well as any outstanding words, quotes, sayings, or thoughts. It's also my duty to introduce the word of the day, and today's word of the day is strategy. Strategy is a plan of action or policy designed to achieve a major or overall aim. Examples of which are having a career strategy will provide you with the motivation you will need to figure out what you really want from your career and work towards your goal. Another example is product strategy defines what your product should achieve and how that supports the organization and is brought to life through the product roadmap. And one more is, it is time for the state to develop a coherent economic strategy. So please don't forget to try to use the word of the day. Thank you, Isha.
All right, so our first speaker today is Svetlana, and her title of the speech is Ride or Die. Over to you, Svetlana.
Well, thank you, Madam Toastmaster, Esha, and fellow members. I can't tell you how happy I am to have this community taking shape. For women in product, by women in product. In these first meetings, we're aligning on our shared goals and vision for this club and its constituents, and figuring out the strategy for achieving our key objectives. Indeed, we're quite deliberately roadmapping our Toastmasters journey. The reality is, roadmaps are frequently misused. In some circles, they can be quite controversial. After all, plans, needs, circumstances change. I can relate. Transitions and change have been the most reliable constants in my life from a young age. I've changed countries, made educational and professional transitions, and discovered an entirely unexpected passion for cycling and fitness that gave rise to a parallel life as an indoor cycling instructor for the past 6 years. Today, my goal is to build products with global impact on people's well-being. I am mindfully formulating the strategy to move the needle towards this goal. In fact, joining Toastmasters is my way of executing on a key theme within my strategy, becoming an effective and confident communicator, which I believe any product leader must be. But if I'm honest, I very much resisted making plans for the majority of my life. My name is Svetlana, and as a product manager, I'm excited to share a little bit about how my career roadmap, my own career roadmap has taken shape as I've made these transitions and discovered problems I want to dedicate my product skills to solving. I was born in Moscow, and my family immigrated to the United States, moving to New York when I was 8. I grew up in Brooklyn, studied hard, experienced loss, and learned to strive. I earned a scholarship and went on to study pre-med at Columbia. As a junior, inspired by courses I was taking at the School for International and Public Affairs, I decided to pivot. I completed a political science major in my senior year. I began my career working for an international law firm, working first in New York and then in Paris for nearly 2 years. When I returned to New York, my interest in global affairs led me to take a role with an international human rights organization at a large foundation. It was here that I was asked to pair with a tech NGO to build an open source case management platform. From mock-ups to writing requirements, interviewing users, diagramming workflows, through testing, eventually it was launched to our grantees. At that time, I had no idea that this project was my first complete product development experience. After securing substantial funding from leadership to build the Salesforce application for my department, I realized that my passion for complex problem solving for my colleagues with technology had a name, and that my natural user empathy, curiosity, and reverence for the scientific approach positioned me to be an effective product manager. But I needed to try this work in a more nimble environment, and after years in large bureaucratic organizations, I felt ready to make my next pivot, this time to product management at tech startups. Today, as a product manager at a mission-driven e-commerce startup called Primary, I am working closely with design and engineering, learning what truly user-centric product development looks like. It's a beautiful brand of gender-neutral clothing for kids that eliminates logos and slogans and allows kids to just be kids. Since joining almost 2 years ago, I've worked with engineers on internal tools and on customer-facing features to help parents shop. Wearing many hats as a sole PM on the team, I also worked cross-functionally with our creative and merchandising teams on a rebrand, and during COVID, even became involved in overseeing creative operations and at-home photo shoot productions. Recently, on revisiting my career roadmap, I am making the decision to refocus my strategy and pivot again. You see, 9 years ago, I discovered a new favorite product and service, the bicycle and indoor cycling. In a world of frequently slow human rights policy impacts from our litigation efforts, I sometimes struggle to find meaning in my day-to-day job. I was deeply inspired by the studio where I'd spend most of my evenings. Somehow, in real time, I would witness truly transformative experiences for roomfuls of people who received an immediate benefit, physically, mentally, even emotionally, every time they used this combination of the bike and great coaching. I knew then that I wanted to bring that kind of immediate benefit with long-term impact to more people. In order to enrich my understanding of this field, as well as develop expertise in the market and product space, 6 years ago, I became an instructor myself, finding a great deal of fulfillment drenched in sweat and hopefully inspiring others. Over this time, I've kept coming back to the concept of ride or die. Its essence, I think, is that if you feel something, you're obligated to do something. In my case, I started with the feeling that I wanted my career to be in service of improving people's health. My worldview grew through human rights policy reform, where I was exposed to the massive impacts of technology. Then I felt that to build technology well, I'd need to learn from the work and experience of nimble and agile engineers and designers. I now operate with the vision to building products that democratize access to well-being and positive behavior changes around the world. As for planning and road mapping, I've learned that we can be very adaptable, even in the face of the unknown, especially when trade-offs come into focus and goals start to crystallize. So if it's going to be ride or die, I have to approach my growth and self-actualization like I would a product roadmap, divide my big goals into epic adventures and realize them by telling one story at a time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Svetlana. That was amazing. Our next speaker is Liz, who is also going to, her title of her speech is How Cycling Made Her a Better PM. So you'll hear a similar theme. So yes, go for it, Liz.
Thank you for the introduction. Yes, I hope, if you're on the fence of thinking about getting into cycling, I'm hoping between Svetlana and my speech, you are really going to try it out. Because today my question for you is, did you ever think you could become a better product manager through cycling? I'm Liz Barnum, the treasurer of our club. And today, I'll be telling you how cycling has helped me crystallize 3 key lessons on how to be a better product leader. So my first lesson in cycling and in work is a principle of hanging on loosely. So when I first started cycling, I loved the thrill of going fast. With a long stretch of pavement ahead of me, it felt like I was flying. However, my ambitions were held back by my resistance to invest in the right cycling gear. I thought the padded pants and the neon jerseys were just silly and unnecessary. But after watching cyclist after cyclist pass me by, I started wondering if this was holding me back. So I thought I'd give it a try. First with the padded pants. Wow, these were so much more comfortable. Then with the clip-in shoes. My goodness, I was able to go so much faster. Even the neon jerseys found a way into my closet because it made for safer riding. And I realized I'd been stuck in my old rut of thinking. I lost out on years of comfortable and speedy cycling. So this translated to my product career because I too got stuck to a prior plan that no longer made sense. As the first product manager hired at Instacart, I had my choice of where to focus. I was enchanted with the idea of building an ads business at Instacart from the ground up. This was going to be the linchpin in the company's path to profitability. But when profitability wasn't a company focus, my team was under-resourced and I was unchallenged. An opportunity came up for me to spearhead another initiative, which would have been a great career move, but I hesitated. I was convinced resourcing was just around the corner, but it wasn't. And just like with cycling, I needed to hang on loosely, to let go of my prior plans and notions of success and embrace new opportunities when they came up. So while this lesson creeped into my consciousness slowly and in solitude, my next lesson was inherently communal. After moving to San Francisco in 2014, I started exploring my new city on bike. I plotted out a few routes through Google Maps and I started pedaling. However, these routes were terrible. They took me straight up unnecessary hills, through streets with broken glass, and onto roads with no bike lanes. Luckily, I befriended a few other cyclists and learned better routes. There was sort of a tribal knowledge about finding the best routes that couldn't be found online. And this is where I learned my second lesson, finding my crew, like-minded peers to support my aspirations. This turned out to be even more true in my journey as a product leader. After a few lonely years without a strong support system, I stumbled upon a peer mentorship group with other PMs. With monthly meetings, we developed a great rapport, and soon we started sharing challenges and mentorship advice with each other. Most recently, this group advised me on negotiating my salary as I made the move from Instacart to Facebook this fall. While finding my crew proved instrumental in my day-to-day challenges, I also learned sometimes you need to call in an expert. And to do that, you need to be comfortable raising your hand and asking for help. In my cycling adventures, I found my hill climbing an utter disappointment. My friends didn't know what was wrong, so I asked the best cyclist I knew to go on a ride with me. She spotted my issue right away. My timing was off when I was shifting gears before a big climb, and it caused me to lose momentum. In my work, I was even slower in asking for help. As our ads business scaled to hundreds of millions in revenue, we faced a paramount challenge to keep advertisers interested. How do we redesign the auction to be a first-class auction? There were multiple options, and I didn't know which way to go. My friends didn't have expertise in this area, and frankly, PhD papers online were too theoretical to be helpful. So our CTO decided we should hire an old colleague of his as an advisor. In fact, he started kind of cutting off some of my answers in meetings with a phrase I grew to hate. Oh, Greg will know what to do here. Greg will have the answers. Greg will solve this. I felt like it was my job to know these answers. It was a dagger to my pride. Greg starts as a consultant, and despite my initial resistance, his advice brought clarity and confidence in our direction. But I had to raise my hand to ask the vulnerable questions plaguing me most. I increasingly began relying on him for advice, and he's now a trusted mentor, even after I've left Instacart. Boy, was I wrong in holding off and asking for help. The 3 lessons I shared with you today, to hold on loosely, to find your crew, and to ask for help are driving forces for why I joined this club. I can't wait to refine my speaking skills and to support each other in navigating our blind spots together. Thanks so much for listening to me today, and I can't wait to see how we all grow together in 2021 and beyond.
Thank you, Liz. What an inspiring story. Thank you. And I'm pretty sure those lessons are going to come in handy for all of us. And also the motivation to raise your hand, I think we all can use in our jobs. Our next speaker is Olena. She is an aspiring PM. Let's hear from her. Welcome, Olena.
Thank you. So, Steve Jobs once said, "You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards." So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in the future. Hello, everyone. My name is Olena. Greetings from San Francisco. I was born 33 years ago in a city called Cherkasy, beautiful city on the banks of the Dnieper River in Ukraine. My mom surrounded me with so much love and care when I was a kid that my elder sister was even jealous at times. And though my parents got divorced when I was 6, my mom did her best to give me the best she could. And I enrolled in one of the best schools in the city where many classes were taught in English and Spanish. And my dad has always been around, and we've always been friends. In the 90s, after the USSR collapsed, it wasn't easy to find a stable work. And my mom used to be an engineer. And I remember her working 3 jobs to provide for me and my sister. Thanks to her effort, I had a happy childhood. I adored my mom, I spent tons of time with my sister, and I enjoyed meeting my dad on the weekends. I thought things would always be that way, as I was completely happy. When I was 12, my mom got diagnosed with cancer. I didn't know what would happen next, so I could only hope for the best. I dreamt about going to the capital and pursuing a degree in international travel business. I was obsessed with tourism, travel, and everything travel related, and I still am. But actually, I decided to do a similar degree in a satellite campus back in my hometown in order to take care of my mother. My mom died when I was 18. On the next day after I passed my first year finals. My mom died, and it was devastating. I was lost. I kept asking why, and I couldn't find the answer. I've yet to find it. However, this world is full of people who are willing to help in a time of need, and sometimes they come from most unexpected places. My dean, just after learning about my situation, talked to the university chancellor about the place for me at the main campus that was located in the capital. She actually traveled with me to Kiev, to the capital, and after an interview with the chancellor, I got a free tuition, and I was able to start my second year in Kiev. So fast forward to 2009, when I graduated and got my first job in tourism. Actually, after 3 years, I became a successful manager at the third largest tour operator in Ukraine. During that time, I met my husband, the love of my life, and he proposed to me 8 months later. I was absolutely happy. Then one evening, my husband came back from work saying that he got a job offer in the United States and we had 2 months to move. To me, it meant quitting the job I loved, leaving my friends and family behind, and moving to a city where I didn't know anyone. But we accepted the challenge. We arrived to San Francisco in February 2014. At the end of my very first job interview in San Francisco, I got hired on the spot. I became a travel consultant at a local bus tour operator where I'm currently working. It's been a while. I worked my way up and I'm now a director of marketing and guest services here. During the pre-COVID time, I managed a team of 12 travel consultants in guest services department and 3 people in the marketing department. But after the COVID hit, my team started to look for an alternative travel experience that we could offer to the guest. We needed something safe, something that people can enjoy, that's going to give tourists an opportunity to enjoy San Francisco without joining a bus tour. This pivot got me into product management as we started developing self-guided tours that people could enjoy on their smartphone at their own pace. So as an aspiring product manager, I joined the Women in Product Facebook group, and then I saw the post about this Toastmasters club. So here I am, giving my first speech, hoping to improve my public speaking skills, learning about product management, and making new friends. But now looking back and connecting all the dots, it has become very clear that this wouldn't have happened unless all the events happened in the way they did. If I weren't a bright student, my dean would have never given me an opportunity to study in the capital. Therefore, I wouldn't have met my husband, the love of my life. I wouldn't have moved to the US if I hadn't met my husband. I wouldn't have had an opportunity to work in tourism in San Francisco if my mom hadn't sent me to the best school where I studied English. If I hadn't started working at my current job, I would have never started building a product, and I would have never met all of you. So the next time you're building a roadmap or strategy for work or for your personal life, for your career, remember that things go off track sometimes. But at the end of the day, it will lead you to the place where you belong or where your product belongs. We can only connect the dots looking backwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. I was speaking as I was muted. So, but thank you. Good to know your story. And again, you know, all 3 speeches have been so inspiring. to hear, to listen, and to learn from all of you. I think we all will take away some things from the speeches. All right, going back to sharing the presentation. Okay, next up, we have the table topics. Our table topics moderator is Srimai today. So Srimai, all over to you.
Yep. Thank you, Isha. Greetings, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. The purpose of the Topic Masters is to facilitate table topics where guests and members will have an opportunity to practice their impromptu speaking. I will introduce a topic and call on speakers who will be given 2 minutes to speak on the subject. Thank you. So first, I'd like to invite Tanya. And the topic is, I'd like you to speak on is, what is your favorite tool to document roadmap?
Wow, I have to go first. This is actually a very good topic as we are in the roadmap planning for next year. What I like to do is work very closely with my engineers and with our product strategy that we built over this past, I've only been in this job for a year, so build upon what we had set out in January to what our vision was for the next couple of years. So we find ourselves in a unique position. Our product has had a very, very good year. So now the tools I'm basically using with them are, I'm very visual. So I will create PowerPoint user journeys to explain where I would like the product to go next year. I also I do a lot of industry research, and I provide summaries of different areas and technologies that I would like us to explore. Mainly that is in PowerPoint. Anything that we agree on as a group that, yes, this sounds like something that we want to do. We use the Atlassian tools in mainly Confluence and Jira to track our progress. And would I say that my favorite tool is probably PowerPoint, because it lets me do the visual, do a lot of creative things on, that help me communicate with the team. I think that's it.
Thank you, Tanya.
Yeah.
Thank you, that was great. So the next speaker I'd like to invite is Priyansh. In your opinion, what are the key considerations while preparing a roadmap?
Okay, let me think about that. Yeah, I think I can talk about what are the key considerations and why are they important. So I think the key considerations are, firstly, customer feedback. So actually, before even start talking about key considerations, I want to provide some context about my role so everyone knows how these key considerations are informed. So I'm a product manager for a B2B enterprise company. So we sell on-prem software to large enterprise customers. So essentially, we get a lot of feedback from customers themselves as well as from the sales. And there are a lot of okay, I'm just losing the word, I think. We get a lot of feedback from customers as well as from sales. And some of the key considerations in informing a product roadmap is customer feedback. sales feedback, competitive sort of factors, which is what roadmap does competition have? Because a lot of our customers actually evaluate competition as well as us in sort of deciding whether to purchase our product or not. As well as another sort of roadmap consideration is what is the resourcing that is available in your team. So how fast can you go and how much you can accomplish in a certain time frame. I think, and the fourth thing is just the broader industry trend, which is how much, is there a bigger industry trend that you need to sort of align with in order to provide the best value for our customers. That's it.
Thank you so much, Priyansh, for sharing your experience and what the key considerations are. The third speaker I'd like to invite to speak on is Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. So I'd like you to share your strategies that helped you with road mapping.
Yeah, so thank you. So my name is Jennifer Ginsberg. In relation to thinking through strategies that have helped my road mapping, I think it's important to think about, really understand what is your strategy, right? So when you think about strategy, it's important to kind of isolate down what, from a product perspective, who are your customer sets, what kind of customer segmentation you are targeting, kind of really understand who are your buyers and who is going to actually use your product. So I think it's important to be very focused on understanding who your target audience is for your product. And then really as part of that adventure, I should say, like in terms of discovery, I think it's also important to think through what kind of business problems your customer set is experiencing. And then when you start looking at that and kind of peeling back the onion, so to speak, you start understanding what the problems are that people are trying to solve, and it helps you align what your outcomes need to be for your product. So when I'm going through road mapping and looking at strategy, it's important for me, I think about not only that customer journey map, but also empathy, understanding of who your customer is, what desired outcomes they're going to have, and then start plotting out some of those key activities, if you will, that your customer set will be experiencing during their day-to-day lives, and be laser focused on those problems. You might want to start small, especially if it's a brand new product or if it's an add-on features to an existing product, to really be able to prioritize things based on business problems, and that will help inform your product roadmap. I think one thing that's a little bit dangerous if you don't have a really good understanding of your customers and their problems is you start creating really big feature functionality that may not actually address their needs. So get something out there fast, test it, get some feedback. That's back to you.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was great to hear from your experience, what the key strategies are. Over to you, Isha.
Thank you, Srimai. And thank you for asking those wonderful questions. I guess for a product roadmap, and I'm going to wear my VP of Education hat here. It's good to hear and reiterate that product strategy, you need to understand what your accessible market is, what market is, total accessible market is for your product or your feature, and also reiterating that you need to understand what the value to the customer is supposed to be. Because if you're not solving for your customer, your product is not going to be used, and your product is as good as somebody or your customer is perceiving it to be. So it's good to hear about that. And the others, most of us are using Jira, Confluence, Atlassian tools. I think I have worked in a few companies where these are the tools that we are using, and engineers are getting used to of this more and more. And then again, for PowerPoint, I've also used Lucidchart, sharing my bit of experience, and then also for product roadmap, it's interesting to know what key elements get in there. Some of them are definitely the resources, the roadmap for your MVP. You need to make sure that what your most valuable product is, so you can talk and so you can look into the feature set. You put in your minimum viable features in, and then you test it out. So that is a key consideration on roadmap too. So thank you for all the speakers, and thank you, Srimai, for asking those wonderful questions. Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing the presentation. All right. All right, time to vote. And see the poll shared in the chat box of the Zoom call. Thank you, Erica, for sending that link.
So we can give everybody a second to vote while we go on to the next.
Sure.
I think this is a different link. When you send it to vote, you guys should probably click on the send button, and then there is a separate link for us, because the link that's shared is the editor's version. And I think besides the one that's created it, can only edit it. I can't vote unless anyone else were able to.
Yeah, I can't vote either.
Yeah, I'm not able to either.
Yeah, me neither.
I just shared the link. I think it looks like that version you are able to vote on it and not edit.
Oh, the second link works.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Except it only has one prepared speech.
Yeah.
Here.
Is it possible for us to send our votes to Isha or one of you guys? Should we do that on Zoom itself? We can just private message you with 1, 2, or 3.
With regards to the speakers, they're doing their icebreakers, and it's probably, you don't really want to vote for best or better speaker when they're doing their icebreakers. You could do it for table topics if you wish. That's a great place to start. Evaluators, I would also say wait till your people are becoming more skilled at doing evaluations or are doing evaluations before you vote. It's a great thing to vote. I think that it really makes better members of us all, but the timing of it I think is also important.
Okay. Let's do this. Only vote for the table topics portion.
And in the meantime, and in the interest of time, could we maybe move to the evaluation side of the meeting?
Yes. Yes, please.
Okay, so do you want me to step in now then?
Yes, let me pull up the let me pull up the slide deck, please. Thank you. Okay, All right, Rita, over to you.
Thanks so much. All right. I'm here now first in the capacity of as general evaluator to check in with the entire evaluation team, including the speech evaluators, to let our wonderful speakers know how they did today. And in that end, I get to perform double duty because I'm going to be a speech evaluator too. And I will first evaluating Svetlana's speech. Svetlana, where are you on here? Let me see. I would love to do something where I could see more speakers. There we go. There, I've got it. Svetlana, oh my gosh, you know, first off the bat, you've got this warm, wonderful smile that it pulls people in. It makes people want to hear whatever it is that you're going to say. It's so gracious. It's just lovely. Don't ever, ever, ever lose that. No matter what the news is that you have to share. Even if you have something that's not great to share, let them see your smile so that you can break them in a little bit for it. So that's wonderful. You started off what sounded like at first was just going to be a here's me in a nutshell. I'm just going to give you some notes here. Here's some notes, here's some notes. And then about halfway into your speech, you shared a little bit about your passion. When you shared about your passion, it was like something else opened up with you. That was tremendous. And the reason why it was tremendous is that it was something that was addicting. I mean, I saw this and I thought to myself, oh, I want to do what she's doing. You know, I want to feel that way too, because you gave an emotion to us that was very genuine, very simple, not over the top, but something that you just really you want that. I want that as a viewer. I want to get that. So I received that from you, which I absolutely loved. I think that would be something that would be great for you to use whenever you have to advocate for a particular point in work or in anything. That ability to share, this is why it's important to me. It's done so very well by you. I would want to use that again and again. So don't ever lose that. That's wonderful. I felt like you were reading a lot, right? Were you reading a lot? Yeah. So it's your very first speech. And in Toastmasters, they'll tell you, well, if you got to read, you got to read. But I'm going to tell you, you don't got to read. You need to trust in yourself, because what you will find is that your notes interfere with the beauty of your speaking. So let's not have that happen again. And let's work towards that being something that you do less and less and eventually just don't do at all. And then lastly, with the ending, the one thing I would have liked is I would have liked to have seen something that didn't end quite so abruptly, all right? Because you had information to share that I thought was so great. I think some kind of a nightcap to that information, maybe even something that's like, you know, reminding us that you hope that maybe we find a passion like yours, or maybe find out more about my passion and maybe it can be yours. Something like that, I think, would have been a nicer way to wrap the whole thing up. But I also understand it's nerve-wracking, especially the first time. Wouldn't you agree? So, and I have to say, in the basis of all of those different things, you hit it out of the park. So good for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's amazing. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, definitely. Now, our second evaluator today is Solazar, who's somewhere in the room. I know he is. And he is going to be evaluating Liz's speech. Solazar, please take it away.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Rita, Madam General Evaluator. And thank you, Liz. As Rita mentioned to Svetlana, actually doing that first speech, that icebreaker is a great achievement no matter what. But Rita stole my material. I think she was looking over my shoulder. I loved your smile, and your eyes smiled, and you brought us in with your enthusiasm. You were completely committed to two things, cycling and product management, and the way you brought them together was wonderful. I liked the demonstration of your points, hanging on loosely, finding my crew, asking for help. I called Greg during the table topics to get his advice on how to evaluate you, and he gave me some wonderful ideas. So You demonstrated a wonderful vocal variety also. Your enthusiasm came through, like when you talked about the padded pants and how they were so much more comfortable. You had that variation in tone and voice that showed the enthusiasm for what you were talking about. Even your callback to Svetlana at the beginning showed a wonderful presence of mind when you were realizing that you wanted to bring people in to share your enthusiasm for your cycling as well as product management. One thing I would say about the callback, though, is that you stepped on your opening. Your opening, it could have been more where you first introduced, today I want to share my love of cycling and product management. As Svetlana mentioned cycling and I mentioned cycling, I'll hope you develop a love for that as well, and just moved on from there. But you brought in Svetlana first and then went to your opening. So you stepped on it just a little bit, but it was still a wonderful presence of mind for that. And I appreciated you that you did that. The things I would recommend going forward, one is you did also read, but try to put your material up a little higher so we get more eye contact, so those smiling eyes will shine through to us. Two is slow down a little bit. Now, I'm a fast talker. I'm from New York originally. I don't take breaths. I don't think you take breaths either because you have so much capacity from your cycling. But you could slow down a little bit, give us a little bit more pacing so we could take in all those points. You gave us such great references from your cycling tips to your work tips that it was wonderful actually to see how you brought those together very clearly, very understandably, and also very simply so that we could follow that thread. So I loved, for an icebreaker, not only your enthusiasm, I loved how you organized it. I also loved how you actually tied the two things together to make them an object lesson for all of us to consider. So Liz, thank you very, very much. And even though Rita already gave away the hit it out of the park, I'm just going to say you scored a 3-pointer at the buzzer. So thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Solazar. Great evaluation.
Thank you.
All right. And then evaluating Olena's wonderful speech, we have a wonderful guest evaluator here today. Everybody, please welcome Renee Yao. Renee?
Great. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. All right, I'm gonna have the timer up as well.
We are good to go.
All right, good. Olena, thank you for your speech. I share a very similar experience as you did. And in fact, my parents was divorced. I had to live in a separate country for 10 years and knowing no one because of my loved ones. And now looking back, looking for the silver lining. In fact, you brilliantly tied everything together, really found the silver lining in everything that happened in your life. There are many great things in your speech. I really love the top two things, your full circle usage and also your personal story. The full circle usage, you opened up with a brilliant Steve Jobs quote and ended it with how it actually makes sense to look back and tie everything together. Your personal story, from your mom's passing to getting your new job in the US, you really showed us who you are as a person, as a product manager as well. The word choices that you use actually showed us what's important in your life, your family, your husband, and your job. And most importantly, you showed us your vulnerability. To relive certain parts of that, it's hard and powerful. Thank you for sharing with us in your opening and in your icebreaker speech. It's not easy, so thank you very much. There are two potential things to think about for your next speech, and these are just my personal suggestion. So first of all is from the content perspective, there is a saying of, for a great storytelling is tell the audience what you're gonna say it, and then tell them what you've said. And I think you brilliantly use that in a full circle usage. Some minor changes you could consider actually when you're connecting the dots, revisit the story points that you actually have already shared with us, instead of introducing new content in the last portion of your speech. The second part is consider more contrast in your speech. For example, the lowlights in your speech is mom's passing and changing a job, going into a new country, but the highlights is the full scholarship and getting a new PM job. Some of the tactics that you could potentially, tactics or techniques that you could potentially consider using include vocal variety or even stage usage or dialogue. So those are some of the tactics I think hopefully you, in the near future, you may consider challenge yourself and take on one or two. In summary, I really loved your speech in terms of the full circle usage and your personal story. And from the improvement side, some of the content and also more contrast in your speech. The best part about your quote, I very much enjoy the opening of Steve Jobs' quote, can't connect the dots looking forward, but looking backwards. And your speech is, in fact, very impactful to me. As I keep reminding myself to be patient in my own journey, I will remind myself your speech that to always look back and something will make sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. All right, wonderful. Now let's check in with some of our people who have been watchful or listeningful. Let's start off with our awe counter. Awe counter, could we get an awe counting report today?
Hi, yeah. So one thing I noticed is for the folks who had prepared their speeches, I had a very hard time finding the ahs and the ohs, to be honest with you. I paid 100% attention. I couldn't really get like ums and ahs. So I noticed that in the prepared speeches, the occurrence is very low. I just a couple of times, Liz, you may have, you know, repeated a word. But for Svetlana and Alina, I couldn't really find any likes, of any of you actually. Now going to the table topics, now this is where I think the, when you're impromptu and you have to think about things, this is where the filler words come in. So Tanya, I found you using so about 4 times, about 5 times, and ands like 2 to 3 times. Priyansh, I saw you used 11 times, so 5 times, okay a couple of times, and then what a couple of times. Jennifer, you were actually really good considering this was impromptu. You only used like 3 times and kind of maybe a couple of times. And that's what I have for the counters for today.
All right, thank you. Great report, now.
Thank you.
Okay, grammarian. Who, I'm trying to remember who our grammarian was. Erica.
That's me. So today's word was strategy. Strategy, Svetlana, Alina was able to work in strategy. And then Jennifer did an excellent job of talking all about strategy multiple times at the beginning of her, at her product roadmap talk. So congratulations, Jennifer. For quotes and sayings and thoughts throughout the day, some of you used some really great descriptive words that I wanted to point out and share with everybody. Isha started off the meeting talking about lots of flavor in the meeting today. I really liked the word flavor. I thought it was a good way to set off the meeting. Svetlana used a lot of product management words. I really like your discussion about democratizing access to applications. I think that's a really important topic, as well as good word use. Liz used the word crystallize, and crystallizing lessons to become a better PM, and I really liked the word crystallize and the imagery that crystallize conjures. Alina's, you can only connect the dots looking backward. I thought that was really fabulous as well. And Jennifer used peeling back the onion. So lots of visualizations conjured today with people speaking. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Erica. Great report. Our timer today was Lori. Lori, could you give us a timer's report?
Yeah, of course. So for the first speaker, Svetlana, your speech was 6 minutes and 4 seconds. Liz's speech was 5 minutes and 44 seconds. Alina's speech was 5 minutes and 53 seconds. For table topics, Tanya was exactly 2 minutes. I'm going to butcher your name, but I'm going to try. Pranisha is 2 minutes and 16 seconds. Jennifer was 2 minutes and 11 seconds. For our evaluations, Rita on speaker 1 was 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Solazar was 3 minutes and 5 seconds, and Renee was 2 minutes and 53 seconds.
Perfect. Thank you, Lori. I appreciate it. And now I'm going to give you my general evaluators report. We started at 10:04 today. In the first couple of meetings that we have, we will start just maybe a second or two or a minute or two late. We really want to strive for starting exactly on time. I always say that it's rather than wait for people who are coming in, let's respect the people that are there. That's important to do. The agenda, it would have been great to have an agenda maybe up and visible to see when people come in, and then being told how they can move that agenda onto their computer to look at it or do whatever it is that they want with it. Now, here's the thing with the slides. I understand why you did it. I caution you on it because as it is in a Zoom environment, you are already taking one layer of the personality out of it because we're not all sitting together and we're not able to look at each other when we laugh or do the many things that one does when they're in community. When you've got those slides there too, you take it a step away even more so, where now we're looking at the slides. We're looking at the slides and having basically what's said on the slides being said by a person. Choose one or the other, right? And I would say to you, stay away from the slides, at least for the time being, until you start to see how you can fold in slides in a way that doesn't break the community that you have in your meetings. Does that make sense? Let's see. Toastmaster. Now, the Toastmaster, you did a great job as Toastmaster. Couple of things to think about whenever you're the Toastmaster of the meeting. You are basically the hostess with the mostess, is a kind of a funny way of putting it. You are introducing people. Introduce those people with just a couple of thoughts. Even if you don't know the people that are there, there are certain things that you can read about a person in just a couple of minutes, maybe, where you can share that, or maybe they've given you something, or maybe you've asked them, tell me something about yourself that I can share about you. But be sure to introduce that person, give that person the kind of launch that you would like to have too. And it goes on with sharing like that. I noticed that after Liz's speech, Esha followed giving a couple of minutes of great praise to what her speech was. Try and look for consistency in doing that in everything that you do, if you possibly can. It's also important to consider brevity as being part of being a good Toastmaster. Keep your remarks short to under a minute. And since we're on brevity, when we're looking at the different functionary reports that we have, there'll be some days where they'll be incredibly robust. And then there will be some days where maybe they'll be somewhat more anemic. Do try and think about, on the days where you have a great deal to say, to picking out the highlights of what you want to say, so that you can keep your report to somewhere around a minute's time. That's really what your golden standard is that you want to look for. And, the evaluations, I thought all the evaluations were very, very good. Number one, I thought was especially great, I have to tell you. She's off the charts, just brilliant. And then table topics. So with table topics, this is a super important one. Table topics is that opportunity for us to learn how to respond to a question that we were not expecting to hear. When you do table topics, ask the question, then select a person. not select the person and then ask the question. Because there's two things going on here. Number one, that person will have to answer right then and there, which is how it happens in real life. Number two, you'll have the attention of everybody in the club because they're not going to know who you're going to ask. So now everybody's going to pay attention. If I ask a question and I say, Salazar, I have a question for you. Well, now Erica's like, okay, let's see, what am I doing tonight? Everybody's out elsewhere because they don't have to really be there. So you want to be sure to ask the question, then select the person. All right. And your remarks, by the way that you handled table topics with your explaining what you were doing and asking the questions, that was perfect. So good for you for doing such a great job with that. Already just in 2 weeks' time, the growth of the club is evident. And that's something to be very proud of. You get the sense when everybody is in here that everyone is striving to do their absolute best. And that's the best thing that you can do. So congratulations for that. I'm looking forward to watching you continue to grow and grow. Thank you. And I am going to turn it back over to Esha. Esha.
Thank you. Thank you, Rita, thank you all the evaluators, and thank you, Rita, for providing that general evaluation. A lot of encouragement. All right, so I'm going to do this because we already have these, but next time we'll make sure that we cut down on slides. So the drum roll, the winner.
The winner today is Jennifer. Congratulations, Jennifer, for a wonderful topic.
All right, over to you, Erica.
Okay, thank you, Isha. Thank you for running a wonderful meeting. Thank you all for who have attended. This month's theme is New Beginnings, and as we wrap up this month in our second meeting, we are all embracing the newness of the club and being great beginners. So thank you all for such a wonderful first month. The charter application is in. Hopefully that'll progress, and soon everybody will have access to their portals where you can, decide which pathways you wanna participate in. There is an announcement regarding fees. Toastmasters International has discounted fees for new clubs. That will be reflected in your next dues. So Liz will let everybody know what that means in terms of what dues will be due next. Let's see. If you have not joined the Women in Product Toastmasters Club Facebook group, so not the PM's Facebook group, which is our public page, but the private WIP Toastmasters Club Facebook group, please do so. That's where we would share private club information. You've all been given access to the member Google Drive, so please let me know if you have any issues accessing that drive. In that drive is a bunch of templates and some information that's available to everybody. So if you're the counter for the next meeting, there's an counter form in there to help you learn what's required for that. And that's all I have in club announcements. I wanted to swing back to our guests today to get some feedback on how they enjoyed the meeting and what their thoughts were. So if either one of our guests would like to share anything, we'd welcome your feedback.
I really liked the meeting. It was very organized, and it's very great to have a good theme around product. And I think all of the product managers really came together to show their experience was a very good core strategy for launching this club. And I'm sharing that because I'm the president of Women Lead Toastmasters, and I know how difficult and what are the challenges, including to actually charter a club. So Really great job. I also really love how you guys did the opening. I actually like the slides. Maybe it's because I'm also a slide master creator, so I love the slides, how it's structured. And I also really like the Sergeant of Arms. I thought I forgot her name, but you did a great job with all of the. It's actually a product manager's way of like, you know, doing the tips of like, how do you use product 101? And this is how you use Zoom. And I really like that. So I really enjoyed it. It's a really great club with a positive energy, and like-minded group of people have a very strong focus in product. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much, Renee. I'm glad we got to connect because I just learned about your club a week or two ago. So
yeah, great. Thank you. If anyone wants to learn more, happy to share more. And in fact, I'm personally in 3 Toastmasters Club, because as more members come in, you realize the opportunity to speak sometimes decrease. So I end up going to many different clubs just so I have more opportunities to practice. In fact, this is a really great club. So think about if I can actually commit to this Sunday timeframe on an ongoing basis. And thank you for having me.
We would love to have you, Renee. Please join.
Oh,
the more the merrier.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. And Priyansha.
Yeah, I think it was great organized, and I really agree with Renee about weaving in all the product aspects to the Toastmasters meeting, so that it's not only about verbal communication skills, but also about learning from each other about, about our product experiences. And so I can really see how it would help at least me going forward, how this kind of structure would help me. So that's really great to realize today. Thanks for having me today.
Well, we invite you to join us if you think that we would help you along your way, your product path. Nav is around. She's our PR of membership. Isha's here, our PR of education. I'm here as well. We're all here. So please let us know if we can be of assistance. Okay. And Isha, I'm gonna give it back to you as a reminder to everybody to please sign up for roles for our next meetings.
So thank you, Erica. Let me please sign up for the roles that you would like to do or you would like to take up for the next meeting. You can also let me know and I can put your name in there too. I will soon post out the topic for the theme and the topic for next meeting, so you can all prepare your speeches. All right, our next meeting is Sunday, December 6th, and same time, 10 a.m. to 11:30, and we'll see how long it goes. That's Pacific time, 1 p.m. to 2:30 Eastern time. Please feel free to reach out to us who are in the leadership positions. Email WIP Toastmasters Club at gmail.com, or please you have your email. You have our personal emails on there too. Also, we constantly manage. We are looking at the Facebook page also. So if you leave a comment, tag any one of us. We'll be sure to answer your question. That's it. That's it for now. Well, I thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you. Bye.